Many people from Asia live, work, and study in the United States, and that could shift faster than anyone expects. Donald Trump is pushing a new wave of immigration and visa restrictions for 2026, and some of these changes target countries the U.S. says are not cooperating enough on security and deportations. If you're from Asia, your country could be among those being reconsidered. Here are 7 Asian countries that, under Trump's 2026 plans, could face tightened travel access or even broad restrictions. And now, let's dive in. Number 7, Laos. Laos is becoming a focus point in Trump's 2026 immigration strategy, and it's not for simple reasons. The U.S. government claims Laos has serious weaknesses in how it manages passports and travel documents. Officials argue that some identity details may be inconsistent, unclear, or difficult to verify, which makes it harder for U.S. authorities to confidently determine who is actually entering the country. Trump's team also points to a second major concern: deportation cooperation. In many immigration cases, when a person overstays a visa or violates U.S. rules, the U.S. expects the person's home country to accept their return. According to the U.S., Laos sometimes stalls, delays, or fails to respond quickly enough to deportation requests, leaving U.S. agencies to handle the process longer and at a higher cost. For Trump, the logic is straightforward. If a country won't take responsibility for returning people, it shouldn't receive full access to U.S. entry systems. If restrictions move forward in 2026, the effects could be immediate and personal. Students could see more obstacles when applying for visas. Workers might face job uncertainty or delays. Families trying to reunite could run into long backlogs, or in worst cases, prolonged separation. Laos would likely need to improve trust and cooperation to reduce the chance of further restrictions. Can Laos fix these issues in time? How quickly could relations recover? And what would it mean for young people dreaming of studying or starting a future in the U.S.? Oh, and before we move on, comment down below where you're watching from. We genuinely want to know your location. Now, let's go to the next country. Number 6, Cambodia. Cambodia is reportedly facing pressure under Trump's proposed immigration direction for 2026. U.S. officials cite what they describe as weak human rights practices and insufficient cooperation on immigration-related security. The argument is that if a government does not respect rights consistently, or struggles to manage documentation and verification, it becomes harder to trust traveler screening. Another central concern is deportation. When Cambodian nationals overstay visas or violate U.S. laws, the U.S. says deportation should follow standard processes. But the claim is that Cambodia often delays or refuses to accept returnees in a timely way. Trump's team frames it as a responsibility issue. Countries that don't cooperate on deportations shouldn't receive the same level of access to U.S. immigration benefits. There's also a wider effect. If Cambodia is labeled as unreliable on cooperation, it could hurt trust beyond the U.S., impacting business partnerships and tourism in a broader sense. To avoid the worst outcomes, Cambodia would need meaningful changes: more secure passport systems, stronger identity checks, and demonstrable cooperation on deportation returns. Whether the country will respond quickly enough to meet U.S. expectations remains unclear. The clock could be ticking toward 2026, and the direction taken now could shape Cambodia's international standing for years. Number 5, Myanmar. Myanmar is another country mentioned for possible removal from certain U.S. immigration access in 2026. The U.S. argument centers on ongoing instability and serious human rights concerns. Since the military takeover in 2021, Myanmar has faced violent conflict, political unrest, and widespread crackdowns. Trump's administration claims that in countries facing major turmoil, background checks become unreliable, raising the risk that dangerous individuals could slip through immigration systems. But the concerns go further than just chaos. The U.S. has criticized Myanmar for mass detentions, restrictions on free expression, and severe treatment of minority groups, including the Rohingya. If Trump pushes these restrictions for 2026, the ripple effects could be heavy. Students might lose scholarship opportunities or find visa paths blocked. Workers already in the U.S. might face problems renewing visas. Families separated by borders could have even fewer legal options to reunite. For those seeking safety, the U.S. may no longer feel like an open destination. Myanmar's future could be affected too. When fewer people can study and train abroad, the country may lose chances for education, investment, and global experience. Will Myanmar respond to international concerns and improve cooperation? Or will it continue to face isolation as the U.S. tightens entry access? Number 4, Thailand. Thailand is also mentioned as part of Trump's tightening approach in 2026, but the reason isn't centered on modern border threats. Instead, the argument points to a past decision, Thailand's deportation of refugees back to China in 2015, which sparked major international outrage. Human rights groups criticized Thailand for endangering vulnerable people, and the U.S. reportedly reacted by moving against officials connected to the deportation decision. Trump's team says this history raises questions about whether Thailand can be trusted to protect at-risk individuals and uphold international standards. The U.S. claims that if a country fails to defend refugees, it also signals broader concerns about how that country handles immigration values and documentation safeguards. Thailand now faces pressure, especially regarding visas for students, travelers, and skilled workers. Families in the U.S. may worry that bringing relatives could become harder or slower. Universities and businesses may struggle to attract talent if visa processing becomes more restrictive. And these actions could send a signal to other parts of Southeast Asia. Ignoring refugee protections could carry consequences in international relations. Number 3, Pakistan. Why is Pakistan being discussed in connection with a possible U.S. restriction in 2026? The biggest claim is national security. U.S. officials have long accused Pakistan of allowing or tolerating terrorist networks, even though Pakistan has taken steps to fight extremism. Trump's position is that those steps are not enough, and that the risk remains. A second major issue involves what the U.S. describes as weak verification and background screening. The claim is that confirming the identities of applicants can be difficult, with missing or unreliable records. In Trump's view, that makes it easier for dangerous individuals to enter unnoticed. Deportation cooperation is also a concern. U.S. officials claim Pakistan sometimes refuses to accept returnees after immigration violations, such as visa overstays or illegal entries. Trump's logic: if the U.S. cannot trust the verification system, and if deportation cooperation fails, then future access should be limited. If these changes become real in 2026, the human impact could be significant. Students who want to study in the U.S. could see major barriers. Professionals in tech, healthcare, or education might lose chances to renew or obtain visas. Families separated between the two countries may face long delays, or remain separated. Some critics argue that restricting travel punishes ordinary people instead of fixing the specific problems. But Trump's side argues that preventing risk must come first. Number 2, Vietnam. Vietnam is often described as a rising economy, but under Trump's 2026 immigration plan, Vietnam may face restrictions too. The primary concern is deportation cooperation. U.S. officials claim Vietnam has delayed or declined returning its citizens who overstay visas or break U.S. immigration and legal rules. Trump argues that this creates legal complications and, in the U.S. view, a security issue. It becomes especially complicated for individuals who arrived decades ago and may not have been U.S. citizens. In some cases, the question becomes, if someone needs deportation, will Vietnam accept their return? Trump's team argues that Vietnam does not consistently take responsibility quickly enough. In response, Trump has suggested limiting visas for many travelers from Vietnam in 2026. That could mean bans or extreme delays for students, tourists, and workers. On the other side, reduced inflow could affect Vietnam's development too, because less global experience coming back may slow the spread of new training and knowledge. Vietnam's government reportedly pushes back, saying many cases involve people no longer considered Vietnamese citizens. But Trump's position is that if someone was born in Vietnam, they should be accepted back. Whether Vietnam changes course before 2026 could determine how tense these U.S.-Vietnam relations become. And how many families and students are affected. Number 1, Afghanistan. Finally, Afghanistan is described as the top country on Trump's potential list for a full travel ban in 2026. The central justification is security. Afghanistan has faced years of war, conflict, and a return of Taliban rule. Trump argues that the country remains too unstable for safe, reliable immigration processing. The administration claims Afghanistan's government cannot provide dependable background checks, meaning U.S. officials may struggle to verify who is applying to enter. The fear is that someone dangerous could pass screening unnoticed. Another major issue is deportation. The U.S. argues that Afghanistan refuses to accept returning citizens who overstay visas or break American laws. Trump's approach is that if cooperation is absent, visa access can be limited or removed. So what does that mean for Afghan students, workers, and families? Many could face closed doors to education and opportunity. Families hoping to reunite might be separated for years. For Afghan citizens and diaspora communities, fear and frustration may grow. There may be increased stigma or discrimination based on nationality. And there are humanitarian concerns too. If travel is blocked too broadly, aid and relief efforts could be harder to reach. In the long term, fewer students abroad could also reduce the number of skills and expertise returning to Afghanistan. That could make rebuilding even more difficult. The U.S. says the ban stays in place unless safety improves. But some argue the opposite, that without access to opportunity and global support, improvement becomes even harder. Afghanistan is at a crossroads, with the world watching closely. Trump is back in power, and these 7 countries are already being discussed as possible targets for major policy shifts. Immigration rules, visa access, and job opportunities could change quickly. So what do you think? Will these decisions improve safety? Or create more harm? Like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell for more updates. And tell us, is your country affected? What would you do? Goodbye.